Our speaker today is Raymond Arnold from New York City, and he's actually one of the organizers of the Sunday Assembly New York City. Great things about Ray, by the way, is that he has been focusing for a long time on one of the elements earlier I was saying that really works in religion is the rituals. So the challenge is that a lot of rituals, I don't know about you, but I was very uncomfortable with rituals and the whole concept of. But as I was talking to Ray, I realized the cup of coffee every morning could be a ritual. Watching the Super Bowl with your friends every year is a ritual. It's just a pattern that you do that has meaning for you. Did I say that correctly?
Yep.
You're going to say it much better, but let's just put it this way. I was very enamored with what he has done, his thinking. He's got a group down in New York City that's doing a lot of work on this stuff. I've seen him present at the Sunday Assembly Conference on these topics. So it's really, really pleased. What he's going to talk about today, the solstice, the winter solstice celebration that he's done, is totally secular, was celebrated multiple places around the country last year and used. I heard from people who did it around the country how great it was. So just very pleased and honored to have Ray come here with us today. So please, Ray, can we give him a nice big warm New Hampshire Maine welcome?
So I've spent the past several years thinking about ritual, thinking about tradition, thinking about community and customs. And a ritual, as I define it, is something we do not because it has an obvious tangible benefit, but because of its symbolic and emotional power. A lot of people in the secular community have an allergic reaction to the idea of ritual, and a lot of that is because, for the most part, everything that was called a ritual was something that was kind of coercive, kind of something that they were sort of forced to do that they didn't actually really believe in. Ritual that works, that is meaningful, cannot be coerced. It has to be something that you bring your own meaning to, that you care deeply about, and otherwise it will feel weird and awkward, or boring and off-putting, or creepy. How I got started on all of this was 4 years ago. I had a community, this was before Sunday Assembly, just had a community of sort of rationalist, skeptic, free thinker people in New York. And we wanted at the end of the year to have some kind of celebration that felt meaningful to us. My family, growing up, my family was half Catholic and half atheist, but we celebrated Christmas Eve, and it was like this huge deal that everyone got really excited about, and it was like, eventually realized it was actually my favorite time of the entire year, all the way growing up. It's a very quintessential Hollywood style Christmas, where you're literally gathering around the big dining table, eating the roast beast. There's literally chestnuts roasting over an open fire. We have people, relatives come from over the river and through the woods, relatives come from hundreds of miles away. We all gather, 30 some odd people, for just this really nice family event that culminates in 2 hours of Christmas carols in our living room, next to the aforementioned chestnuts roasting over the aforementioned open fire. There was a lot of really great things there that I didn't even realize how much was going on there until later on. My friends wanted something that felt meaningful to them, and I said, well, okay, my family does Christmas Eve, and that's very meaningful to us. How can I take stuff from that? And I'm an artist, a designer by background. So once I started paying attention to all the little things that were going on that made Christmas meaningful, I realized there was actually a lot of interesting subtleties. For example, so first of all, we have this book of Christmas carols that we sing, but we sing it backwards. We start from the last song, and then we work our way forward to the beginning. And that's weird, and it doesn't make any sense. Why did we decide to do that? The answer is at some point someone said, hey, let's just start in the back this year. And then that became a kind of weird thing that our family does that sort of reminds us that this is our family, and we're kind of weird sometimes, and that's fine. And then a second coincidence that happened after we started reading from the back of the book to the front was the songs at the end of our Christmas caroling book are all very silly and childish. They're the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer type songs. So they're all they're songs that you don't really feel bad if you screw them up. If after you've just had a nice dinner and half of you are slightly drunk, ranging from slightly to perhaps more so drunk, it's kind of okay if you're just Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. No one cares. You sound fine. We're all together. It's a kid's song. It doesn't matter if we screwed up. And that means that everyone feels really comfortable just getting loud, getting ready to just all sing together. But then, over the course of the night, we transition from that type of music to gradually more contemplative music. Gradually we transition from music that's about snowmen and reindeer and large fat men that creepily sneak their way into your house once a year, to songs that are about what the original story of Christmas was, which is this child born into poverty in the middle of the desert that shepherds came to visit and kings came from hundreds of miles away to visit, and the kings brought gold and frankincense and the shepherds brought a drum and a song. And both of those gifts were meaningful. And I don't actually believe in the literal truth of that story, but I think there's something really powerful to the idea that greatness and importance and change can come from anywhere, and that someone born into poverty, like, they deserve the respect of their neighbors, their friends, they deserve the respect of kings and priests. That's like a really important idea that did go on to change the world in an important way. So we have this emotional arc that starts very loud, very silly, and then gradually transitions very more and more sacred. Eventually ends with a a cappella silent night. We sort of dim down the lights, the fire has dimmed down, food coma has kind of set in, and you're relaxing with your friends and family, and you sing just a peaceful, simple song together. And that transition from high energy to stillness is very beautiful. So all of that was in my head, kind of thinking, all right, I see how all these things work together. At the same time, there's all these totally random ideas. We have these like chestnuts and open fire. We have this like creepy fat man that sneaks in through the chimney and gives you presents and takes your cookies. And we have reindeer. And we have this virgin-born savior. And we have all these things that like you would not, like if you were like, let's design a holiday that's meaningful. Step 1, virgin-born savior. Step 2, give him some myrrh and frankincense. Step 99, invent the Coca-Cola company. Step 100, have the Coca-Cola company invent this particular rendition of Father Christmas that's fat and jolly and has this red suit, and then mash that all together. Boom, meaning, we did it. You would not have, in a million years, have like decided to do that on purpose, but it did come about through organic cultural evolution, and it produced something really poignant that a lot of people care about, that people care about the world over. What can we learn from that? So there's two things to learn from that. One is that you have to be willing to let things sort of evolve naturally. The other thing, though, is even though that had all these random things getting shoved together that didn't seem at first glance like they might make sense together, there was a core narrative that was really important, that peace on earth can come from anywhere, that peace on earth is something incredibly important. We had that core narrative that was meaningful enough that people tried to spread it across the world. Took pieces of the various cultures that idea intersected with as it spread across the world. So having the core narrative that means something and having kind of some random things that end up fitting together those are both important. Here's what we ended up doing. Winter was coming. We wanted something that felt right to us, and what was interesting about this community was we weren't just a bunch of atheists, we were like a bunch of people that actually got together because we shared a lot of not just ideas about whether or not there's a God, not even just like whether like science is important or not, but we shared the idea that we live in a world where there's a lot of things that aren't fair. There is disease, there is poverty, there is natural disasters, there are things that humanity caused, and there are things that humanity just was thrown into this random crazy world that we have to deal with. And all of these unfair things, they follow really difficult to understand rules, but they do follow rules. And you can look at all the things going on in the world and you can understand them. You can use reason, you can use science, you can use critical thinking to understand what is going on in this world, why all these things are happening that are causing suffering, and you can change those things. You can use that understanding to build new systems, to build a better society, to build better tools. And ultimately, we decided that we would celebrate the winter solstice specifically, but this wouldn't be a just sort of like random, the world's getting dark, the world's getting bright, woo, kind of celebration. Thousands of years ago, humans were thrown into this crazy world, and every now and then, it got cold and it got dark. And if you hadn't saved up enough food, you might die, your children might die, your village might suffer. Your elderly people might not have enough warmth, Your kids might not have enough food. And this was a really big deal. Winter would come, and winter would wreck things. The sun would stop rising as high. The world would get frigid. Everything around you would be dying. And you had no idea why it was happening. All right, there's got to be some reason. Maybe God's getting angry at us and we throw an awesome enough party, he'll turn around and come back and the world will get beautiful again. So it turns out when you throw a really awesome party, eventually God does turn around and the world does get beautiful again. So that's good. But it doesn't give you any information earlier in the year about when winter is coming and how to make your decisions in advance so that when winter comes, you are ready for it. And eventually someone was like, hey, guys. First of all, seems like God gets angry at pretty regular intervals. Second of all, bear with me. What if we could figure out when the sun god will get angry with geometry? And we started just like measuring things, and it turns out weather, hurricanes, we still like barely are able to predict weather and hurricanes and storms and whatnot today, but the movement of celestial objects in the sky, those are actually pretty simple, and anyone that just sits and starts taking the time to look and actually measure things can find out a lot, even with very primitive tools. Astronomy was invented so that we could look up at the sky and figure out when winter was coming. We could figure out when to plant our harvests, what to plant, when to plant it, when to slaughter some of our cattle because we couldn't afford to feed them over the winter. All these things that let us look to the future, predict the future, and make better choices in the present. That seemed like a really powerful idea to us. It seemed really powerful to my community in 2011 that had been going on for thousands of years, and that had transformed winter from a terrifying season of darkness to a beautiful festival of light. All across the world, winter has become this festival where there are lights and there are candles and there is all this food, and it's a time when instead of feeling afraid of nature, you feel safe with your community. And that transformation has been really amazing. And that's just half of it. That's just looking from the past to the present, looking at what the people before us have done. Then there's a whole second half, which is looking at us, looking at the world we're in. And there are still some things that are unfair, some things that are dangerous, some things that cause suffering, some things that follow crazy rules that we only barely begin to understand right now. But we know, because we look at history, that humans are able to look at nigh incomprehensible things and figure out the rules that govern those things and use that understanding to fix them. Winter solstice for us is about looking back into the past and then looking forward into the future. Being grateful for what's been given to us, paying that gift forward, being connected to a story that is bigger than ourselves, a story that is not supernatural, a story that we created. And that really resonated with people, and it's been growing every year. And first year there was like 20 people, second year there was like 50 people, some of whom like came from Boston and San Francisco because they read about it and thought it was cool. And then third year we said, all right, this seems like an actual good thing. Let's just try and spread and share this thing. So we have like 120 people in San Francisco, another 100 so in San Diego. We've had 180 people in New York. And this year there's more people that I've met from Sunday Assembly that are interested in joining in on that. So it's like really poised to be a holiday that I think does have a chance of taking shape and like becoming something that does actually matter culturally because it is about a story that is actually important. The core idea here is that we want to have a community that feels meaningful to us, and part of that is having a story. What are the things that are most meaningful to you? What are the things that connect you all together, that make you feel united? And what are all the things that inspire you and make you feel like transcendent? The most important lesson to take from everything I've done is that like transcendence and community and connection and stories are not mysterious. They are things that make sense. They are things that are complicated, but you can understand them, you can reverse engineer them, and you can create things for yourself that are meaningful.